Fear is an unavoidable part of life. It lurks in the shadows of every decision, every challenge, every unknown path. It manifests in the hesitation before speaking up, the doubt before taking a risk, the anxiety that paralyzes action. Fear whispers that you are not capable, that failure is inevitable, that you should stay where it's safe. But here's the truth. Fear is not meant to be avoided. It is meant to be confronted. Every person carries within them a set of dragons, deep-seated fears that control their actions, shape their perceptions, and limit their potential. Some people fear rejection, so they avoid relationships. Others fear failure, so they never try. Many fear responsibility, so they remain passive, waiting for life to hand them meaning. The problem is that what you avoid doesn't disappear. It grows in the darkness, feeding off your hesitation, gaining strength each time you look away. The longer you refuse to face your fears, the more power they have over you. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. And courage is built, not granted. You don't wake up one day suddenly fearless. You earn your own trust through action. Every time you face what you fear, you send yourself a message, I am stronger than I thought. And every time you avoid it, you reinforce the belief that you are weak. This is why the first step toward real confidence is voluntary confrontation. Think about the things that scare you the most. Maybe it's standing up for yourself. Maybe it's admitting your mistakes. Maybe it's stepping into an unfamiliar situation. Whatever it is, that fear holds a lesson. It is pointing directly at an area of your life where you need to grow. Running from it is running from your own potential. The only way to truly overcome fear is to meet it head on, to step forward willingly, to prove to yourself that you can survive what you are afraid of. Consider someone who has spent years avoiding confrontation because they fear conflict. They let people walk over them. They suppress their own needs. They stay silent when they should speak. Over time, they begin to see themselves as weak. Not because they are inherently weak, but because their avoidance has trained them to believe it. One day, if they decide to change, they will have to do something terrifying. They will have to stand up and say no. And the first time will be awful. Their heart will race, their voice may shake, their mind will be filled with doubt. But if they do it anyway, something will shift. They will have taken a step toward a different version of themselves. And if they continue to confront that fear, one day they will wake up and realize they no longer hesitate to speak their mind. Fear thrives in inaction. It wants you to stay comfortable, to stay small, to stay safe. But real safety doesn't come from avoidance, it comes from competence. And competence is built through experience. If you fear public speaking, speak in public. If you fear rejection, put yourself in situations where you risk it. If you fear failure, take on challenges where failure is possible. Each time you do, you strengthen the part of yourself that refuses to be ruled by fear. There is another truth about fear. It does not disappear, but your relationship with it can change. As you grow stronger, fear becomes less of a barrier and more of a signal. It tells you where you should go next, what areas of your life need work, what challenges you are ready to face. Instead of being something to avoid, fear becomes a guide. It points toward the person you are meant to become. This is not easy. Growth never is. Facing your fears means stepping into discomfort, into uncertainty, into the possibility of failure. But what is the alternative? To live a life controlled by avoidance? To stay trapped within self-imposed limits? To never know what you could have been if you had dared to push forward? That is a far worse fate than any fear you might face. So start small. Choose one thing you have been avoiding and confront it. Speak up in that meeting. Set that boundary. Apply for that opportunity. Each small victory builds momentum. And as you continue, you will notice something remarkable. Fear will still be there, but it will no longer control you. You will have proven to yourself that you can face it, and in doing so, you will have earned something far more valuable than comfort. You will have earned belief in yourself. Telling the truth is one of the hardest things a person can do. Sounds simple. Just say what is real, what is accurate, what is honest. But the reality is far more complex. The world rewards deception in the short term. Lies make things easier, smoother, more comfortable. People lie to avoid conflict, to gain approval, to escape responsibility. They tell themselves that small falsehoods don't matter, that bending the truth is harmless, that avoiding reality spares them pain. But the problem is that every lie, no matter how small, weakens the person who tells it. When you lie, you create a divide between yourself and reality. You distort what is true in order to manipulate an outcome. But in doing so, you also distort your own perception of the world. The more you do this, the harder it becomes to see clearly, to trust your own judgment, to act with confidence. Lies accumulate. They build on one another, forming a fragile, unstable structure that cannot hold under pressure. And when that structure collapses, as it inevitably does, it leaves behind nothing but regret, confusion, and chaos. There is a reason why honesty is the foundation of real strength. A person who tells the truth consistently and courageously builds a life on solid ground. They know where they stand. They do not have to remember what they said to whom. They do not live in fear of being exposed, of contradictions catching up with them, of their own falsehoods unraveling. Instead, they move through the world with clarity and certainty. But telling the truth is not just about avoiding deception. It is about aligning yourself with reality in a way that makes you stronger. It means admitting when you are wrong. It means saying what needs to be said even when it is difficult. It means refusing to manipulate people with comforting words when the harsh truth is what they actually need. Consider how often people lie to themselves. They tell themselves they are happy when they are not. They convince themselves they have done their best when they know they have fallen short. They ignore the warning signs of failure, of decline, of problems that need to be addressed. And they do this because the truth is painful. It requires change, effort, and accountability. But lying to yourself only prolongs suffering. It allows problems to grow in the shadows, unchecked and unresolved. Eventually, those problems become too big to ignore, and by the time they do, the damage is far greater than it needed to be. Truth-telling begins with yourself. It means looking at your own life with unflinching honesty. Where are you failing? Where are you avoiding responsibility? Where are you making excuses? These are difficult questions, but they are necessary ones. Because once you face reality as it is, not as you wish it to be, you can begin the process of real change. You can take meaningful action. You can correct course before it is too late. But honesty must extend beyond yourself. You must be willing to tell the truth to others, even when it is uncomfortable. If someone you care about is making a mistake, do you stay silent to spare their feelings, or do you speak up because you know they need to hear it? If you see corruption, injustice, or wrongdoing, do you turn away because it is easier, or do you have the courage to stand against it? These are the moments that define a person's character. Truth is not just about personal integrity. It is about making the world a more stable, functional, and meaningful place. There is also a hidden cost to dishonesty, resentment. When people suppress the truth, when they bite their tongues, when they go along with what they know is false, they begin to resent the world, others, and themselves. They feel powerless, weak, and trapped. They tell themselves they are doing the right thing by keeping the peace, but deep down, they know they are betraying something essential within themselves. And that betrayal festers. It turns into bitterness, cynicism, and despair. The only way to break free from that is to speak the truth, to stand up for what is real, even when it is difficult. Telling the truth does not mean being cruel, reckless, or inconsiderate. It does not mean using honesty as a weapon to hurt people unnecessarily, but it does mean refusing to participate in deception. It means choosing to live in reality, to build a life based on what is solid and true, rather than what is fragile and false. This is not easy. It requires courage, discipline, and a willingness to endure discomfort. But the alternative, a life built on lies, avoidance, and self-deception, is far worse. The truth may be painful in the short term, but in the long run, it is the only thing that leads to real strength, stability, and self-respect. If you want to believe in yourself, if you want others to trust you, if you want a life that is meaningful and unshakable, then start by telling the truth. Always. Taking responsibility is one of the most powerful things a person can do. It is the difference between a life of strength and a life of weakness. It is the foundation of confidence, purpose, and self-respect. Yet, many people avoid responsibility whenever they can. They blame their circumstances, their upbringing, their bosses, their governments, or even the universe itself for their problems. They look outward instead of inward, searching for something or someone to fault for their situation. But this is a mistake. The moment you refuse to take responsibility, you give up control over your own life. When you take responsibility, you acknowledge that your actions, your choices, and your mindset all play a role in where you are today. That doesn't mean life is fair. It doesn't mean you won't face hardships that you didn't create, but it does mean that regardless of what happens to you, you are still the one who must respond to it. No one else is coming to save you. No one else will fix your problem. No one else can live your life for you. The burden is yours, and whether you choose to carry it or not will determine the kind of person you become. Responsibility is not a punishment. It is a privilege. It is what gives life meaning. Imagine a person who avoids responsibility at all costs. They make excuses for their failures. They refuse to take ownership of their mistakes. They drift through life blaming others for their problems and expecting the world to accommodate them. Over time, they become bitter, resentful, and weak. They feel powerless because in a very real sense, they have given away their agency by refusing to take responsibility. Now, imagine a person who embraces responsibility. When they make a mistake, they own it. When something goes wrong, they ask what they could have done differently. When life hands them difficulties, they don't complain, they adapt, they learn, they grow. This person becomes stronger with each challenge. They develop competence. They gain the respect of others, not because they demand it, but because they earn it through their actions. Most importantly, they respect themselves because they know they are someone who can be counted on. Taking responsibility does not mean carrying burdens that don't belong to you. It does not mean accepting blame for things you had no control over. What it does mean is looking at your life honestly and asking, what can I do to improve this? Even if something isn't your fault, it may still be your problem to solve. Even if life is unfair, it is still your job to respond to it in the best way possible. Complaining will not change anything. Blaming others will not fix your situation. The only thing that will make a difference is action. It starts with small things. If your life is chaotic, clean your room. If your health is failing, change your habits. If your career is stagnant, take the steps to improve your skills. These are not easy tasks, but they are within your control. And the more you take control of what you can, the more you will find that you are capable of handling. Responsibility, like strength, is built over time. It starts with minor challenges, and as you prove to yourself that you can handle those, you become capable of taking on more. People often think freedom is the absence of responsibility, but that is not true. Real freedom comes from taking responsibility. The more responsibility you take for your life, the more control you have over it. If you refuse to take responsibility, you will always be at the mercy of circumstances, dependent on others to fix your problems. But if you embrace responsibility, you gain the ability to shape your own future. This is not an easy path. It requires discipline, it requires effort, it requires sacrifice, but the rewards are immeasurable. A person who takes responsibility gains the ability to build something meaningful. They gain the ability to trust themselves, to rely on their own strength, to face challenges without fear. And in doing so, they become the kind of person others look up to, the kind of person who can be counted on when things get difficult. Taking responsibility is not just about improving your own life. It is about making the world a better place. If everyone took responsibility for themselves, truly took ownership of their actions, their words, and their choices, society itself would be transformed. There would be less blame, less victimhood, less resentment. There would be more competence, more trust, more progress. Because when people take responsibility, they stop waiting for someone else to fix things and they start fixing themselves. So the question is simple. Will you take responsibility for your life, or will you spend your days making excuses? Will you step up, or will you shrink away? The choice is yours, but so are the consequences. If you want to live a life of strength, meaning, and self-respect, there is only one answer. Take responsibility, pick up your burden, carry it well, and in doing so, become the person you were meant to be. Life is inherently chaotic. It is filled with unpredictability, obstacles, and constant change. If you do nothing to impose structure on that chaos, it will consume you. It will manifest in disorder. Disorder in your habits, disorder in your relationships, disorder in your mind. People who live in chaos often feel overwhelmed, anxious, and powerless. They struggle to make decisions, to stay focused, and to achieve their goals because their lives lack direction. The only way to combat this is to create order, to take control of the things that you can so that you are not constantly at the mercy of external circumstances. Order is not something that happens by accident. It is something you must build intentionally, piece by piece, starting with the smallest possible step. If your life feels like it is in disarray, start with something as simple as making your bed in the morning. This might seem trivial, but it is not. When you make your bed, you impose structure on at least one part of your environment. You establish control over something concrete. You set the tone for the rest of your day. If your living space is a mess, clean it. If your schedule is chaotic, organize it. If your finances are out of control, make a plan. These are small actions, but they are powerful. They give you proof that you are capable of imposing order even in the midst of disorder. The way you manage your immediate surroundings is a reflection of how you manage your mind. A cluttered environment often mirrors a cluttered thought process. When everything around you is disorganized, it is easy to feel scattered, unproductive, and frustrated. But when you take the time to create order in your physical space, you also create clarity in your thinking. You can focus better, make decisions more effectively, and feel a sense of peace rather than stress. But order is not just about cleaning your room or following a schedule. It is about structuring your life in a way that allows you to grow, to improve, and to work toward something meaningful. It means setting goals for yourself, real, tangible goals that guide your actions. It means developing routines that support your well-being, such as exercising regularly, eating properly, and getting enough sleep. These things might not seem exciting, but they form the foundation of a stable and productive life. Without order, people drift. They go through life without direction, reacting to whatever happens rather than making deliberate choices. They fall into bad habits because they do not have a structured way to keep themselves accountable. They waste time because they do not have a plan for how to use it. They struggle with anxiety because they never take the time to sort through their thoughts and responsibilities. When you create order, you eliminate a huge amount of unnecessary stress. You know what needs to be done, and you have a clear path forward. Order also gives you freedom. Many people resist structure because they see it as restrictive. They think that creating routines, setting schedules, or following rules will make life boring and robotic. But in reality, structure is what allows you to have real freedom. When you are disorganized, you spend your time putting out fires, scrambling to meet deadlines, and dealing with problems that could have been prevented. But when you have order, you gain control over your time and your choices. You create space for creativity, for learning, for growth. You are not constantly playing catch-up. You are moving forward with intention. The key is to start where you are. You do not need to overhaul your entire life overnight. That approach almost never works. Instead, pick one small thing that you can bring order to. Maybe it is your morning routine, maybe it is your work schedule, maybe it is something as basic as keeping your home organized. Whatever it is, start there, master that one thing, and then move on to the next. Over time, as you impose order on more aspects of your life, you will find that you feel more in control, more capable, and more confident. There will always be some level of chaos in life. You cannot control everything. Unexpected challenges will arise, circumstances will change, and obstacles will appear. But that is exactly why creating order is so important. When your life is structured, you are better equipped to handle whatever comes your way. You are not thrown off balance by every minor setback because you have a solid foundation to stand on. You are able to face difficulties with a clear mind rather than being consumed by panic and disorder. A life without order is a life of constant struggle. A life with order is a life of stability, progress, and purpose. The choice is yours. If you want to be stronger, more capable, and more prepared for whatever life throws at you, then take responsibility for imposing structure where you can. Create order, even in the smallest ways, and watch as it transforms everything else. Aiming high is not just about ambition. It is about deciding that your life will be something more than what it is today. It is about refusing to settle for mediocrity, about recognizing your potential and doing everything in your power to fulfill it. Too many people aim low, not because they lack ability, but because they are afraid of failure, afraid of disappointment, afraid of the responsibility that comes with striving for something great. But aiming low guarantees only one thing, that you will never know what you could have been. When you aim high, you give yourself something to work toward. You create a vision for your future that pulls you forward, that challenges you, that forces you to grow. Without a meaningful aim, people drift. They fall into routines, do what is easy, and avoid discomfort. They wake up years later wondering why they feel unfulfilled, why they lack direction, why their lives seem empty. The reason is simple. They never chose a goal that was big enough to inspire them, to push them beyond their limits. Aiming high is not about wishful thinking. It is not about sitting back and hoping that success will come to you. It is about setting a goal so significant that it demands the best version of yourself. If you choose a goal that is too small, you will not grow. If you aim for something that does not challenge you, you will remain the same person you are today. Real progress happens when you set a goal that forces you to develop new skills, to overcome obstacles, and to push through difficulties. But aiming high also comes with risk. The higher you aim, the greater the chance of failure. This is why so many people avoid setting big goals. They do not want to face the possibility of falling short. They tell themselves it is safer to play it small, to avoid disappointment, to stick to what is comfortable. But that is not safety. It is stagnation. It is a slow decline into mediocrity, into regret, into a life lived far below its potential. Failure is not the enemy. The real enemy is never trying at all. Every person who has ever achieved something great has failed, sometimes repeatedly. But failure is not the end. It is part of the process. It is the thing that teaches you, that refines you, that makes you stronger. When you aim high, you will face setbacks, but those setbacks are what separate those who truly want to succeed from those who give up at the first sign of difficulty. Aiming high does not mean ignoring reality. It does not mean setting a goal so unrealistic that it is impossible. What it does mean is choosing a goal that is just beyond your current abilities, something that will stretch you, something that will force you to become better. It means breaking that goal down into smaller, achievable steps so that you can make progress without becoming overwhelmed. Many people never aim high because they do not believe in themselves. They have been told that they are not smart enough, not talented enough, not lucky enough. They look at others who have succeeded and assume that those people had some special advantage. But that is almost never the case. The people who achieve great things are not necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They are the ones who set a high goal and refuse to give up until they reached it. If you want to change your life, start by setting a goal that excites you and terrifies you at the same time. It should be something that feels just out of reach, something that will require you to grow into a stronger, more disciplined person. And then take the first step. Do not wait for the perfect moment, because there is no perfect moment. Start where you are with what you have and commit to the process. Along the way, you will face doubt, both from yourself and from others. Some people will tell you that you are aiming too high, that you should be more realistic, that you should lower your expectations. But you must decide whose voice you will listen to. The voices that tell you to shrink, to settle, to stay where you are, or the voice inside you that knows you are capable of more. Aiming high is not about achieving perfection. It is about progress. It is about becoming someone who refuses to accept less than their best effort. It is about choosing a path that challenges you, that inspires you, that makes life worth living. You only get one life. The question is, will you spend it settling for less than what you are capable of? Or will you aim high, face the risks, embrace the challenges, and see just how far you can go? The choice is yours. Struggle is an unavoidable part of life. No one escapes it. No matter how privileged, talented, or lucky someone might be, they will face difficulties. Some people try to avoid struggle at all costs. They look for shortcuts, seek comfort, and run from anything that feels too hard. But this approach leads to weakness, stagnation, and a lack of fulfillment. The truth is, struggle is not something to be feared or avoided. It is something to be embraced. Struggle is the process through which you grow. Every skill, every achievement, every worthwhile aspect of life is built through difficulty. When you push yourself in the gym, your muscles tear and rebuild stronger. When you challenge your mind, your brain adapts and becomes sharper. When you endure hardship, you develop resilience and character. Struggle is the furnace that refines you, shaping you into someone capable of handling greater challenges. If you avoid it, you stay the same. If you embrace it, you evolve. Most people want the rewards of success without the hardship that comes with earning it. They admire great athletes, brilliant thinkers, and accomplished leaders, but they do not want to experience the years of effort, sacrifice, and setbacks that those people endured. They want to be strong without lifting heavy burdens, wise without facing difficulties, and confident without overcoming fear. But reality does not work that way. The only way to become strong is to struggle through weakness. The only way to gain wisdom is to wrestle with uncertainty. The only way to develop confidence is to face fear and push through it. Many people misunderstand struggle. They see it as a sign that something is wrong, that they are failing, or that life is unfair. They believe that if they were smarter, more talented, or luckier, they would not have to struggle. This is a dangerous mindset. Struggle is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of progress. It means you are pushing your limits, stepping outside your comfort zone, and working toward something meaningful. If you never struggle, you are not challenging yourself enough. There is a deep sense of satisfaction that comes from overcoming hardship. Think about a time in your life when you worked incredibly hard for something. Maybe you trained for a race, studied for a difficult exam, or built something from nothing. The effort was exhausting, frustrating, and at times discouraging. But when you finally achieved your goal, the reward was far greater because of the struggle it took to get there. Contrast that with the fleeting satisfaction of things that come too easily. When something is handed to you without effort, it has little value. True fulfillment comes from the struggles you endure to earn your achievements. Embracing struggle does not mean seeking out suffering for no reason. It means recognizing that difficulties are opportunities to grow rather than reasons to quit. It means seeing hardship as a teacher rather than an enemy. When you encounter an obstacle, you have two choices. You can see it as proof that you should stop, or you can see it as a chance to become stronger. The people who succeed are not the ones who avoid struggle, but the ones who use it as fuel. One of the greatest benefits of struggle is the resilience it builds. When you push through hardships, you develop mental toughness. You learn that you are capable of handling more than you thought. You stop fearing difficulties because you have faced them before and come out stronger. This resilience carries over into every aspect of life. A person who has embraced struggle is not easily broken. They do not crumble under pressure or shy away from challenges. They face life with confidence because they know they can endure and overcome. Too often, people give up when things get hard. They quit a workout routine because it is painful. They abandon a goal because progress is slow. They walk away from relationships because they take effort. But struggle is not a reason to quit. It is a sign that you are on the right path. Anything worth achieving requires persistence through difficulty. If you can learn to see struggle as part of the journey rather than a roadblock, you will accomplish more than you ever thought possible. The most successful people in the world are not those who avoided struggle, but those who embraced it. They did not give up when things became difficult. They did not back down when faced with challenges. They endured, adapted, and kept going. That is what separates those who achieve greatness from those who settle for less. The question is not whether you will struggle, because you will. The question is how you will respond when you do.